What's up guys, Asian here with our first vet trial video in quite a while. So this is looking at Lokkestiiz on Sunspire. Specifically we're looking at Lokkestiiz hard mode, and I will explain the difference between hard mode and non-hard mode throughout this video, but because I pretty much only run Sunspire on hard mode now, we're pretty much limited to explaining the hard mode mechanics. So for those of you guys who are progressing through Sunspire hard mode, the various dragon hard modes, I will have videos for each of the 3 different dragons and their hard mode mechanics and how to deal with them. Now I will have a couple of non-hard mode videos here from a DPS perspective, just so you guys can see what certain things look like, particularly on Lokkestiiz. But for the most part, these are going to be from main tank perspective. So I will be explaining all the mechanics, but bear in mind you will not necessarily be able to see all the mechanics because this is from the perspective of the main tank, and the main tank does not have to deal with some of the mechanics on each of the dragon fights. So again, going to start off here with Lokkestiiz hard mode, and I will discuss the differences between hard mode and non-hard mode where appropriate. So starting things off here, Lokkestiiz, each of the dragons do have an aura underneath them, as you can see here with this white aura that will continue to deal damage while you're within this aura here. So you just want to make sure you're out of this aura here. All of the dragons as well will have what's called a wing thrash. So if you are beyond this knuckle point here, so kind of use this claw or knuckle, we like to call it a knuckle, to kind of denote where the quote safe zones are. If you are beyond this knuckle, you will get hit by wing thrash. Basically, he literally just bitch slaps you, he flies you, sends you across the arena, and he stuns you. You can't CC break out of it, and when he does do his wing thrash, he will also throw out a couple of tornadoes that will speed across the arena as well. So just make sure you're standing within the wing area. So if you're at that knuckle and beyond it to the outside, you are going to get hit by the wing, and it does deal quite a lot of damage, so just keep that in mind. Now the first mechanic has already popped up here, and it's known as Frozen Tomb. So at this point here, we're actually going to hop over to the DPS perspective so you guys can see what it looks like as well as what you got to do to deal with it. So this is from a DPS perspective here. So this is going to be the Frozen Tomb. So you'll see it pop up in just a second here. So this is the first Frozen Tomb. So when Frozen Tomb goes out, you'll see that it does spawn a sort of circular thing, as you can see here. It basically looks like a white little cyclone here. And you basically have to jump into it. Now when you jump into it here, you'll see that my health does go down pretty much right away. So you can see here it drops down to about 25% or so. So it deals about 75% oblivion damage. Now if I was at, let's say, 50% health and I jumped in at that point, I would have instantly died. So make sure that you have at least 75% of your health remaining, or I should say 76% of your health remaining, before you jump into the ice prison. Now at this point here, I do have a healing debuff on me, so that's healing received. So I'm receiving much lower heals than I should. Now I have 8 seconds, or I should say our healer has 8 seconds to heal me all the way up to full. Once I healed all the way up to full, I am free of the prison and I can go back to doing my DPS thing. Now if they were not able to heal me all the way up to full, the prison will explode and deal damage to everybody on the arena. The damage does seem to vary a little bit here, but generally speaking, from what I've seen, the more health you have when the prison explodes, the less damage it deals to everybody. You will always die, but the damage that's dealt to everybody else does seem to be proportional to the amount of health that you have when it explodes. As you can see here, I'm in here, and I get fuel all the way up to full, and once I'm all the way up to full, I break out of the prison and I can go back and DPS. So the ice prison itself will last, the AoE will last for 10 seconds. If nobody jumps in it within 10 seconds, it'll explode and kill everybody. The person, if you do happen to jump in it, you also have about 10 seconds to get healed all the way up to full. If you're not able to heal up all the way up to full in 10 seconds, it explodes and deals damage to everybody within the arena. Now on non-hard mode, there is only one ice prison. On hard mode, there are 2 ice prisons. So what a lot of healers do when you're doing hard mode is they stagger it. So they have one person jump in immediately. They'll try to get Major Vitality through the Black Rose Prison Restoration Staff, and then heal them up. And once the person is pretty much all the way healed up, the second person will jump into their ice prison and they will get healed up. So remember, there is 10 seconds window there, so you have about 10 seconds to get that first prison done, and then the second prison as well. So that's how you deal with it on hard mode. On non-hard mode, it's a pretty easy check. It doesn't give you quite as big of a debuff, but on hard mode, a lot of people are going with the Black Rose Restoration Staff, as well as any source of major mending or minor mending that they can get. So if you you have a Warden Healer, Warden Healers are, you have a lot easier way just to get major bending compared to like Templars. So Warden Healers are typically going to be the ones that are going to be the Cage Healers. Additionally, it does not affect health regen, so a lot of people are using Troll King on the Cage Healers, since that gives you a lot of health regen. Basically gives you an additional like about 800 or so healing done per second, which does help out, especially as a DPS, because you don't have quite as much health to heal up compared to like a tank, for instance. So that is the Ice Prison. So you will notice that there was Ice Prison 1, and there's going to be Ice Prison 2 and Ice Prison 3. So when you are done with the Ice Prison, you do have a debuff applied on you that lasts for about a minute. The Ice Prisons go out at intervals of about 25 seconds or so. So that's why we need 3 different groups here. So by the time the 3rd Ice Prison is done and there's the next Ice Prison comes out, that first person will be off of their debuff. The debuff is gone, so they can jump back into the prison. If you jump into a prison with a debuff, you die. You guessed it correctly there. So that's why you have 3 different prison groups. So on non-hard mode, you need 3 people to do prisons. On hard mode, you need 6 people to do prisons, because again, there are 2 ice prisons on hard mode. So that is the ice prison mechanic. So moving back over here to this here. So Lokkestiiz itself, all the dragons have a breath move, so his is the Frost Breath. Doesn't have quite as much of an animation tell compared to Yolngu or Navitas, as you'll see when we take a look at Yolngu and Navitas. They have a much easier tell here, so just keep that in mind if you're using something like Vycosa or some sort of major evasion to kind of preempt the animation there. He does have a heavy attack, which you should dodge, so that's the heavy attack right there. And his move here, you'll see that he slammed his wing down and he summoned out, you might have missed it because it did move fairly quickly, a little puff of dust kind of traveled around the dirt there, and then those 2 little lightning balls also traveled out. He is summoning a Frost Atronach and 2 Storm Atronachs, and it'll always be the same. So you will always have 2 Storm Atronachs to 1 Frost Atronach. And how this works is basically the Frost Atronach spawns. He has 24 million health on hard mode. I don't remember off the top of my head how much he has on non-hard mode, but it is a lot of health. The Storm Atronachs act exactly like Storm Atronachs on a hard mode, except they are not able to move around at all, so they pretty much stay in place there. But they will explode once you are at a low amount of health. So they will start to explode at around 20% health or so. So you will want to kill any of them that are exploding. Once they explode, they do leave a pillar of lightning, and you do need to guide your Frost Atronachs into those pillars of lightning to deal damage to the Ice Atronachs. Ice Atronachs will immediately get hit for quite a bit of damage. It's about half of their health immediately. So in theory, 2 lightning Atros, those little lightning pools, will kill 1 Frost Atronach. Now this is not always going to be the case on hard mode. Sometimes they'll be left alive with about 800 to 600k health remaining. At that point, you should just kill the Ice Atronachs, have the DPS focused on the Ice Atronach, because you don't want to waste any lightning pools. Again, there's only 2 lightning pools for every Frost Atronach, and 2 lightning pools should, in theory, kill an Ice Atronach. So if you use up 3 for 1 Ice Atronach, you're going to have 1 Ice Atronach remaining that has half health. So you just want to make sure to avoid that. So on hard mode and on non-hard mode, you'll always get the exact same thing. There's always going to be 1 Frost Atronach and 2 Storm Atronachs, even on hard mode. They are time-based spawns, so once you kill them, there's a certain amount of time before the next ones will spawn. Now on hard mode for progression, I do recommend killing them. On non-hard mode, the off tank can just hold the Ice Atronachs off to the side. Not that big of a deal. But on hard mode, you do want to try to kill the Ice Atronachs just to give you guys a little bit more breathing room during the flying phases. And we'll talk about the flying phases in just a second here. So again, this is from the main tank perspective, so you will not be able to see the DPS kind of going off and killing the other the Ice Atros here. So you can see here that the DPS did decide to go out and start to kill the Storm Atronachs, and you have the Frozen Tomb, that's the second one, the heavy attack right there, and Frost Breath, and that's pretty much it for Lokkestiiz. So those are all of his moves, more or less, until we get to the flying phase. So the flying phases happen at percentage health points. So they always happen at 80% health, 50% health, and 20% health. So when we hit the 80% health, we'll go over what the phase basically looks like here. We'll give it a couple more percentage points here. Alright, so we're hitting about 80% health right now, so he is going to start flying. So at this point, he will summon 2 Frost Atros and 4 Storm Atros, as you see here. And then so during on hard mode, I should say, you are going to get flame Atronach spawns. That's these little flame circles that you see on the ground here. Those come from Navitas, and they're only there on hard mode. The flame Atronachs are a little bit dangerous. You do want to kill them, but they're fairly easy to handle, so not that big of a deal there. They are melee adds, weirdly enough, so they will. You'll see here, this one's probably going to fly across the arena here when it spawns. Yep, because it is a melee ad. So again, you'll see here that we kill the Storm Atronach. It's going to start exploding. And it spawned the lightning pool, which my Frost Atronach was already in because I was holding it next to the Storm Atronach there. And its kill right there. And so you see that during this phase here, he will beam lightning down. So you can see he did throw that lightning down there. And you can see over here, over there, that is what the lightning pool looks like. So you just want to make sure to bring the Ice Atronach into that pool here. So whenever he's flying, he will do the beams here, basically a sweeping lightning breath on the ground. And it'll always be in the exact same place, depending on the flying phase itself. But 80%, it'll always be straight down the center as you see. At 50%, it'll either be straight down the center or straight down one of the two sides, either the entrance or the exit side. I've seen both. Just be mindful of where it could be. And then on the final phase, it'll be in a X pattern. So when we go over to the 20%, I'll show you guys exactly where that X pattern is. But on hard mode and on non-hard mode, he will also do Storm Fury. I like to call it Hyper Beam because it looks like Hyper Beam from the Pokemon games. But the actual move is called Storm Fury itself. So this lightning breath here is Storm Breath. So on hard mode, you will get this sort of AoE around you on hard mode here, and obviously you'll get hit by a dot while it's on you, and if your AoEs happen to overlap with somebody else's, you'll get an additional hit as well. You just want to make sure you're spread out far enough that you aren't overlapping your AoE, so no one's in your circle and vice versa. The way to deal with this in hard mode for a lot of progression style guilds right now, and there are other ways to deal with this, but the safest way to deal with it is to basically use all your mitigation as much as you can. So you have a circle of protection down, as you can see here with the healer. I threw down a Cinderstorm to help out with the healing a little bit, and then you have everybody around the circle of protection, making sure you're getting that minor protection. Then you have your healers just healing through with healing springs, vigor for stamina DPS, shielding up as magic DPS, and so on. That is the safe way to deal with the strategy. The tanks can obviously be out because you're a tank. It doesn't really hurt that badly. It does hurt, but you're able to heal through it. It's not quite as bad like compared to like on a DPS. While this is happening, you will get those flame Atronachs happening, and you will have the occasional meteor that comes down just like in AA hard mode. Just make sure to block it so that way you're not stunned. Then from there, you pretty much rinse, lather, and repeat. The only things that are going to be different now are basically going to be the different flying phases, the lightning phases. I should say the lightning beams that are being put down. So let's see if we can skip over to 50%. So at 50%, you can see here we managed to... Oh, nope, I think we already did the beam already. So when I say the beam, I'm talking about the hyper beam. So that is the beam that he shoots out at 50%. So at the 50% flying phase, which you're going to be hit in just a second here, he will actually do his Storm Fury Beam right away. So you'll see here he's going to fly over there, and he's going to immediately use his Hyper Beam, so you're going to need to immediately get into that circle of protection if that's a strategy that you're using. And throw down your barriers, use your mitigation ultimates. See here, he just immediately uses that beam there right when you hit 50%. You can see as a tank, it does hurt, the dot does hurt a little bit, but you are able to more or less be able to heal through it using any sort of self-heal that you have. And then from there, he will again do his lightning breath across the arena here, and I believe in this phase he does do it straight down the middle. Let me just here, so that's what the lightning bolt looks like. So that is so telegraphs are not exact here. So yeah, he does do it right down the middle there for this phase here. Again, the telegraphs are not accurate at all, so just don't really pay attention to those telegraphs here. So you can see here he does do one all the way over there and one sort of down the middle here. And at the 20%, I did mention he does the X pattern, so we're going to move ahead to the 20% one here. A little bit more. So a little bit less, we already did it. So 20%, again, the timing's going to be a little bit different here. So he will throw down his breath first, so let's see if I can skip a little bit ahead here. So here we are, we push him to the 20% flying phase, and he's going to immediately do his cross. So these telegraphs are always going to be correct. The first one goes across the arena like that. Next one, again, it's an X pattern, so as you would expect, it's going to go diagonally around that way, like so. That's where the X's are at, and he will do his beam a little bit after that first wave disappears. So the first wave has already disappeared, the first line of that X disappeared, and he's going to be doing his beam right around now. There we go, that is his beam, he's doing his beam right now. And so if you want to sort of see a tell, that's pretty much what it is. When that first beam, when that first line of the X goes away, that's when you want to get into your stack, get your mitigation ultis, get your mitigation moves all set up, your barriers, whatever, and then do that. So execute, other than that, is pretty simple. Any Ice Atronach spawn, off-tank just holds them away from group. You don't have to deal with the Ice Atronach even on hard mode, and execute. So that's basically how it goes there for this fight. He does have an ice ball that he shoots at you if you're at range, so you don't want to get hit by that because it will do continuously more damage here. But beyond that, fairly simple. I should say not fairly simple. He does do a lot of damage during the flying phases, but if you have your sort of mitigation ultimates, you have your ways to mitigate active, then it's actually not that bad. This is probably the hardest fight out of all three dragons, so if you're able to complete this, you should be able to complete Sunspire hard mode, as long as you kind of know the mechanics and, you know, execute them perfectly. So that is going to be it for this video. Hope you guys found this informative. If you guys have any questions about the fight itself, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. Hope you guys found this video informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.